Bismillah Rahman Rahim. So today we are here today a new lecture, and the lecture is about the beam banding. So let's say if we have a beam, it is supported by supports, a knife edge support here, and a roller and knife edge support here, and it is subjected to a load F. So what happens to the beam? The beam would bend, and it would bend as shown in the figure. So this is the beam bending, and because of these bending, what happens to the beam? What happens inside the beam? So the questions that one could ask are what type of stresses or strains are produced in the bended beam, and how to calculate those stresses in these beams. The stresses which are produced in the beams because of bending, they are known as bending stresses. So let's say we have a beam and initially there is no load. So the beam would be straight. And let's say this is the geometric axis of the beam. This is the geometric axis of the beam, and I have marked two lines. One line AB here, straight line, vertical line, and the other here, CD, straight line, vertical line. And let's say the distance between these two vertical lines AB and CD, which have been marked on the beam surface, that distance is dx. So when we subject the beam, when the beam is subjected to the load, so the beam would bend, and this would be the new shape of the beam. So what would happen to this line and this line? The line AB would become A dash, B dash, and the line CD, the new position of this line would be C dash, D dash. And the axis passing through the center of the beam, it would be also now have a curvature. So the beam would have, we would have a curved beam. The beam would have a curvature, and let's say the radius of curvature of the beam is r. So it would have a radius of curvature, and the point of the curvature is, let's say, O, and the radius of curvature is r. And the angle subtended by these two lines, A dash, B dash, and C dash, D dash, let's say that angle is theta. It is theta. And we are taking a fiber of the beam EF, and it is at a distance of y. It is at a distance of y from the centroid or center line of the beam. So after the beam is bended, so this fiber, the position of this fiber would be this. E dash F dash is the new position of the fiber when the beam is subjected to loading, and it is at a distance of y from the axis. So actually, if you visualize, so because of this bending, what would happen to the fibers above this axis? Above this axis, we could visualize that the fibers have compressed. Here you could see that these two lines have come close to each other. So all those fibers which are above this axis, they have been compressed. However, the fibers beneath, all those fibers which are beneath this axis, they have elongated. They are in tension. So the fibers on this side are in tension. However, the fibers on this side are in compression. So when the beam is bended, so we would have tension on one side and compression on the other side. In other words, some of the fibers would be in tension. However, some of the fibers would be in compression. Now come here. So if we move from here, from the top, this fiber of the beam is actually in compression, and the compression is maximum. However, when we move in the downward direction, the compression on the fibers decreases, and we would reach a fiber where there would be no stress. In between, there would be fiber which would be not subjected to elongation or shortening. Such a fiber, the axis passing through such a fiber is known as neutral axis, because that fiber would be neither in compression nor in tension. So let's say that fiber is N dash N dash. This fiber has neither elongated nor it has been shortened. So there would be no stress on that. So we call that fiber neutral fiber, or the axis passing through that fiber is the neutral axis, because the stress there or the loading there is zero. When we move below the neutral axis, so you could easily visualize that the fibers are subjected to tensile loading. Here we would have tension. The beam would be in tension, and we would have tensile stress. So above the neutral axis, there would be compression. Below the neutral axis, there would be tension. And the neutral axis, the fiber at the neutral axis, it would be neither in tension nor in compression. Now, this here you see the cross section of the beam. This is the cross section of the beam. Let's say this beam is rectangular in cross section. The height of the beam is, let's say, h, whereas the width of the beam is b. And here this is the neutral axis. So the neutral axis actually passes. This is the height. So the neutral axis actually passes through the height. So here you see that this is the neutral axis. So now actually when the beam is subjected to loading, it would bend, and because of bending, there would be compression, there would be tension. So we are talking about compression, tension, bending. So what kind of stresses would be inside the beam? So in order to discuss that, first, as there would be stresses, and the stresses are because of bending, so we call them bending stresses. And as we are talking about tension and compression, from the start of the course, we discussed loading, tensile loading, compression loading. Tensile loading is when we have loading in such a way that we are applying a pulling effect on the material, then we would have a tensile loading. When we have a pushing effect on the material, then that loading is compressive loading. And as a result of tensile loading, we would have tensile stress. As a result of compressive loading, we would have compressive stress. And you already know that tensile stress and compressive stress, they are normal stresses. So here in beams on this side, as there is compression, so we would have compressive stresses, whereas on this side of the beam, which is in tension, we would have tensile stresses. And both of these stresses are actually normal stresses. The loading is perpendicular to the cross section. If you take a cross section here, if we take a cross section here, the loading would be perpendicular to the cross section. So the loading is normal loading. So the stress which would be produced is the normal stress. Here we would have compressive stress, here we would have tensile stress. So if we move from here, from the top of the beam, the compressive stress would be maximum. As we move in the downward direction, the magnitude of the compressive stress would decrease, and it would be zero. There would be no stress at the neutral axis, because the fiber at the neutral axis are neither in tension nor in compression. So the stress at the neutral axis would be zero. Below the neutral axis, we would have tensile stresses, and as you move in the downward direction, the tensile stresses would increase, and it would be maximum at the opposite surface of the beam. B D dash. B dash D dash is the fiber which is which is extremely in tension. So at that fiber, the tensile stress would be maximum. On this fiber, the compressive stress would be maximum. So if we plot the stress distribution, about this cross section, if I draw a line here, let's say this is the line, this is the cross section of the beam, the width is b, the height is h, and this is the neutral axis which is passing through the centroid of the beam. In this case, the neutral axis and the axis of the beam passing through the centroid, it is the same in this case, but it is not necessary. The axis of the beam and the neutral axis, it is not necessary that they coincide each other. It depends upon the cross section of the beam. Sometimes we would have different cross section beams, so the neutral axis would be offset from the centroid of the beam or axis of the beam. Here in this case, both of them are coinciding because we have a symmetrical cross section. So this is the neutral axis. So the stress is 0. I have drawn a line here in order to show the stress distribution. At the top of beam here, the compressive stress is maximum. So this is the maximum compressive stress. Here the stress is 0. At the bottom of the beam, at fiber B dash D dash, the tensile stress is maximum. So if we take the negative in that direction, so I have to take the positive in the opposite direction. So here the tensile stress is maximum, sigma maximum tensile, sigma maximum compression. And the stress distribution we would just discuss, and you would see that the bending stress actually varies linearly with height, with variation in y. With variation in y, the bending stress varies linearly. This is the model that we would discuss in our next slides. Sigma, the bending stress, is equal to m, which is the bending moment, times y by I. Y, we are changing y, we are moving from here in the vertical direction, we are changing y. So with respect to y, the bending stress is directly proportional to y. There is linear relationship between the bending stress and the dimension y, vertical dimension y. So if we plot this equation here, so it would be a straight line. So I'm drawing just a straight line from here to here, and then this distribution here, I would just mark the arrows. This distribution shows me the compressive stress about this cross section of the beam, and I would mark these lines which would show me the distribution of stress below the neutral axis. So this is the tensile stress distribution. This is the compressive stress distribution. At the neutral axis, you could see that the stress is 0, and at the top surface, because the bending is such that at the top surface the compressive stress is maximum, whereas at the bottom surface the tensile stress is maximum. So this is the stress distribution. So we come to know that in beams, because of bending, we have bending stresses. The bending stresses are normal stresses. We would have compression stress in the compression area, and we would have tensile stress in the tensile area. Next topic that we would be discussing is the beam bending model. That how to calculate the bending stresses inside the beam when the beam is bended because of loading. So this equation or model, which is sigma, which is the normal stress, is equal to my by I, where m is the bending moment, I is the second moment of area, that is the cross section area of the beam, and y is the vertical distance from the neutral axis along y axis. So sigma is equal to my by I. M is the bending moment, Y is the distance, vertical distance from the neutral axis, above the neutral axis and below the neutral axis. So Y is plus minus h by 2 for rectangular beam. And I is the second moment of area. So how to prove this mathematical model for the bending stresses inside the beam? This mathematical model is also known as beam flexural formula. So we just discussed that when if we have a beam and it is subjected to loading, then the beam would bend and the beam would have a curvature. It would have a curvature. And let's say R is the radius of curvature, and this is point O is the point where the line extended. If we extend this line, and if we extend line T dash and C dash, and these two would intersect here, which means that this is the point of curvature, center of curvature for this radius R. So about the neutral axis, let's say R is the radius of curvature, and this angle is theta. Here Q is written, but assume that this angle is theta, the angle subtended by these two lines, which were initially vertical. We mark them vertical, but because of bending, they are now inclined to each other, and they intersect each other here. And from there, that point where these two intersect, we are taking the radius of curvature. Now, this length of this arc, length of arc n dash n, in order to find this length, we would use the equation S is equal to r theta. So n dash is equal to r. The radius of curvature is r, and the angle is theta. So n dash is equal to r theta. This is the length of this fiber at the neutral axis. And if we move in the downward direction, and at a distance y, the y is in the downward direction. So we are taking y as positive in the downward direction. So this fiber E dash F dash, so the radius at this fiber would be r plus this y. So this is the radius of this fiber, the radius of curvature of this fiber E dash F dash. And in order to find the length of this fiber, again we are using the same equation. S is equal to r theta. R here is r plus y, so r plus y, and the angle, subtended angle is theta. So E F dash is equal to r plus y theta. This fiber is in tension, whereas this fiber is neither in tension or nor in compression. The length of this fiber is more than the length of the fiber at the neutral axis. How much is the elongation? How much elongation has occurred when we move a distance y? So that elongation is delta, and in order to find out that from this length, we have to minus this length. So E F dash minus n dash is equal to r plus y theta minus r theta. So from here we would have r theta plus, it would cancel with r theta minus, at the end we would have y theta. So the delta, the elongation that has occurred when we moved in the downward direction through a vertical distance y, the elongation in the fiber is y theta. Strain is denoted by epsilon, and it is the deformation per unit original dimension. The original dimension is actually at the neutral axis, because initially we have taken these two vertical lines, and the distance between these two is the original length. It has changed here at the above the neutral axis. This length has decreased. Below the neutral axis, this length has increased. So epsilon is equal to delta by the original dimension n and dash. Delta we have just computed, y theta, original dimension n and dash. We have already calculated that is r theta. This theta would cancel with this theta. The strain, the normal strain here is y by r. This is the strain that is produced in the beam. So the strain here we would have elongation. So we would have positive strain below the neutral axis because there is tension here. So we would have positive strain. However, above the neutral axis, because since there is compression here, so the strain would be negative. There would be shortening. Stress, we would be using the Hooke's law, sigma is equal to E epsilon. So E, we have found out that strain is Y by R. Stress, the stress that is produced is E Y by R. So this is the tensile stress, normal stress in terms of Y and the radius of curvature and the Young's modulus. Second thing that we would discuss in order to derive that flexure formula or bending beam model is the moment of area. So this is actually the beam when it is unloaded. So I'm considering this cross-section area of the beam. So initially here we have a cross-section area. So I'm taking a cutting plane here and this is the cross-section area. So initially this cross-section area is vertical, but when the beam is subjected to loading and because of the loading the beam has bended. So what happens to this cross-section area? This cross-section area has moved. It has been rotated. It has been rotated. It has been rotated about this point O. It has also been rotated about the neutral axis. So here you could see that this area has been rotated. This is the neutral axis. So this area has been rotated. So we have seen physically that the cross-section area here has been rotated. So the physically it has moved. So we could take the moment of the area about the neutral axis. So this is the cross-section area which we are talking about. The width is B because we have initially considered that the beam is in a rectangular cross-section. The height is H. This is the neutral axis. Neutral axis. And below the neutral axis, I am taking the vertical distance as Y. So this would be positive in the downward direction. And I am taking a small area of this cross-section area. And let's say this small area is dA. And this small area is a distance, it is at a distance of Y below the neutral axis. This area has moved about this neutral axis. So we could take the movement of this area. So the first moment of this area would be what? It would be area dy times y. So the first moment of this small area dA, let's say it is ti1, I'm representing by ti1 is equal to area itself dA times the moment arm. The moment arm here is y. So the first moment of this small area dA is di1 is equal to y dA. Second moment of area, again I am taking the second moment of area. In order to take the second moment of area, again I would multiply it with the moment arm. So the second moment of this small area di2 is equal to, again I am multiplying with the moment arm, y times y dA. So this is the first moment of area, multiply again with the moment arm, we would get the second moment of the small area dA. So y square dA. So this is the second moment of this small area. In order to find out the moment for the whole cross section area, we have to integrate on both sides. So integrating on both sides, I2, which is the second moment of the whole cross section, it is equal to, let's say, I is equal to integral y square dA. So when we are doing modeling, so you would see this term, integral y square dA. This term, integral y square dA, is nothing but it is actually the second moment of the cross-sectional area about the neutral axis. And this is the physical representation of the movement of the cross-sectional area when the beam is subjected to the loading and the beam is bended and it has a curvature. So the cross-section area has moved. So physically we have represented that. And in the modeling you would see this term. And physically what would be this term? This would be the second moment of the cross-section area about the neutral axis. So we have just discussed that in the beam there would be stress, and we have come up with the equation for the bending stress in terms of the radius of curvature and the distance from the neutral axis and the Young's modulus. Next, we would be refining that equation because we want that model in terms of bending stress and second moment of area. So this is our cross-section area. This is a small area dA, and at this small area there is loading. There is loading. There is compressive loading. There is tensile loading. Below the neutral axis, we would have a tensile load. Let's say this is the load on this small area at a distance y from the neutral axis, and this load is actually equal to sigma dA, because sigma is load per unit area. Sigma is F by dA. So this F is actually this dF. It is sigma dA. Now at this neutral axis, we could take moment of this force about this neutral axis, and that moment is what? dm, which is the bending moment, which is actually the bending resistance, the resistive moment which is produced because of this internal force. It is dm is equal to this force. The force is sigma dA times perpendicular distance, and the perpendicular distance is y. So dm is equal to y sigma dA. Sigma, we have already found out that this sigma is E y by r. So putting for sigma, we would have y E y by r dA. So dm, the small moment because of the small force on small area dA, it would be equal to E y square by r dA. This is the moment because of this small force on this small area dA. So the total moment over the whole cross section, we have to actually integrate this equation. So integrating on both sides, we would have m, and E by r is constant. E is Young's modulus, r is the radius of curvature. So we are writing these two out of the sign of integration. So integral y square dA. So here you are seeing this term, integral y square dA. So this term, physically it has meaning, and this term we have already discussed that this term is actually the second moment of the cross-sectional area of the beam, which is because of the bending of the beam. So this term is actually integral y square dA is the second moment of area I. So putting for this term, so m is equal to E by r I. So from there I could write m by I is equal to E by r. And we have already developed an equation for the bending stress, which is sigma is equal to E y by r. So I'm bringing this y here on the other side of the equation. So sigma by y is equal to E by R. So if we look at both of these two equations, the left hand side is E by R. So we could equate these two equations. So equating these two equations, we would have m by I is equal to sigma by y. And from there, sigma is my by I. So this model could be used to find bending stresses inside the beam. This model is known as the flexural formula for beam bending. In this, y is the vertical distance from the neutral axis. So in the downward direction, it would be positive. In the upward direction, it would be negative. And we are taking that y from the neutral axis. So from the neutral in the downward direction, positive. From the neutral axis in the upward direction, you have to take it negative. I is the second moment of area of the cross section of the beam. M is the bending moment. Bending moment, resistive moment. It is the resistive moment, because this moment we have calculated from the resistive force, the internal force which is produced inside the beam because of the bending. So we have taken the moment of the resistive force about the neutral axis. So the moment of that resistive force, we call it the bending moment, resistive moment. It is actually the resistive moment. So m is the bending moment. Now you could see, look at this equation, and you could visualize that this bending stress is directly proportional to y. So if we are increasing y, then it would be it would also increase, and it varies linearly. The bending stress varies linearly with y. Similarly, the bending stress is directly proportional to m, bending moment. So the point where it means that the point where the bending moment would be maximum, the stress would be maximum. The point where y would be maximum, the bending stress would be maximum. And the bending stress is inversely proportional to the second moment of area. So if we want to reduce the bending stresses in the beam, so we could also play with the I, that is second moment of cross-section area of the beam. With that, you could also control the bending stresses inside the beam. It means that the cross-sectional area also contributes to the bending stresses inside the beam. So we come up with the beam bending model. Sigma is equal to my by I. Y could be plus minus h by 2 for a rectangular cross-section beam. This is the rectangular cross-section beam. This is the neutral axis. Y in the downward direction, we are taking positive. So in the downward direction, it will be positive, and here its value of y, the value of y at the neutral axis is 0. If we move in the downward direction, y increases, and on this surface, the value of the y would be h by 2. The height of the beam is h by 2. So from here to here, it is h by 2. So at this surface, y is plus h by 2. However, at this surface, y is minus h by 2. Also, for a rectangular cross section, the second moment of area, if the neutral axis passes through the height, if the neutral axis passes through the this dimension, that is height, then I, the mathematical model for I, second moment of area would be b h cube by 2. The mathematical model for I depends upon the cross section. If the cross section is rectangular, this would be the mathematical model for I. If the cross section is circular, the mathematical model is different. I would show you in the coming slide. If it is rectangular, the mathematical model would be different for that. It also depends upon in which dimension the neutral axis is passing. For example, here we just discussed that if the neutral axis passes through the height of the beam, then the equation for the second moment of area is bh cubed by 2. However, if the bending is such that the neutral axis passes through the width of the beam, this is the neutral axis, then I would be equal to hb cubed by 2. So just remember that the dimension through which the neutral axis is passing, it would have a power of 3. If it passes through h, so you have to put cube on h. If it passes through b, then you have to put u cube on b. If the beam is circular in cross section, and this is the neutral axis which is passes through the center of the cross section or centroid of the shape, then the second moment of area is pi by 64 d4. So as I discussed with you that the second moment of area actually depends, it depends upon what? It depends upon the shape of the cross section, whether it is rectangular, square, triangular, uh, circular, irregular, channel. eh? So it depends upon that. Also, it depends upon the neutral axis, at which fibers the neutral axis passes. So here in this table, you could see some cross section of beams. So section shape, rectangular, circular. It is just like a hollow shaft or ring, square channel, and I section, area in meter square. So the model is BH for rectangular shape, for circular pi r square, for a ring shape pi r square minus pi r outer square minus r inner square, and this is the area section area of this rectangular channel, hollow channel. And for this I section, this is the model 2t h plus b. Second moment of area, unit of second moment of area is meter 4. Remember that the second moment of area, the unit is always meter 4, inch 4, meter 4. And if the cross section passes through the height, then I would be bh cubed by 12. And if here the neutral axis passes through the center of the circle, so in terms of radius by 4 r4, and in terms of diameter pi by 64 d4. This is the I for hollow shaft or hollow beam. For rectangular channel, it is 1 by 6 h cube t, 1 plus 3 b by h, and for I section, it is 1 by 6 h cube t times 1 plus 3 b by h. So here this actually column represents the second moment of area I. This column represents the moment of inertia. This represents the moment of inertia, of the beam. So with this, we are finishing the lecture. Thank you very much.